Hello, welcome to On Wildlife. I'm your host, Alex Ray. On this podcast, we bring the wild to you. We take you on a journey into the life of a different animal every week, and I guarantee you're going to come out of here knowing more about your favorite animal than you did before. This week, we'll be discussing the largest living bird species, one that can grow to 9 feet tall, but you won't see it flying over your house. This amazing animal has some really cool traits that I can't wait for you to hear about. So put on your running shoes because we're heading to the hot savannahs of Africa to talk about ostriches. The scientific name for ostriches is Struthiocamelus, and they belong to the Struthioneiformes order. Their closest relatives include emus, kiwis, and rheas, which are all flightless birds. There are only 2 species of ostriches, the common ostrich and the Somali ostrich, also known as the blue-necked ostrich. The Somali ostrich is only found on the mid-eastern shore of Africa, while the common ostrich can be found in all regions of Africa. They typically grow to about 7 to 10 feet tall. That's 3 feet taller than the average human and 2 feet taller than the next largest bird, the emu. An adult ostrich can weigh from 140 pounds to 320 pounds, and males typically weigh more than females. So needless to say, they're the largest bird species in the world. They also have the largest eyes of any land mammal. Their eyes are 2 inches in diameter, more than twice the size of humans, and that's as big as a pool ball. And their eyes are actually bigger than their brain, but this isn't the worst thing in the world for them. Their eyesight is really good. They can see predators and prey from extremely far distances. Ostriches can see something that's over 2 miles away. And as you probably already know, they're flightless. They have to walk like the rest of us land mammals, and they can't migrate and forage for food easily like their other bird relatives. But that doesn't mean that they can't get to places quickly. Ostriches are able to sprint up to 43 miles per hour, or 69 kilometers per hour. When they run, they keep their wings out for balance because they're running at such high speeds. And when running long distances, they're able to run 31 miles an hour, and they can cover 10 to 16 feet in a single stride. The longest broad jump at the NFL Combine ever recorded was only 12 feet in length. Ostriches have been declared the fastest bipedal or 2-legged animal on Earth. Ostriches are also the only birds in the world that only have 2 toes, and at the end of these toes, they have really large and piercing claws. They're about 4 inches long. They're strong enough to kill predators and prey and create great traction with the ground while running long distances. All of those adaptations are extremely important because ostriches have a lot of predators, including hyenas, cheetahs, leopards, and wild dogs. They need to be able to escape quickly and defend themselves if necessary. And contrary to popular belief, ostriches don't bury their heads in the sand when they're scared. The myth that ostriches do this comes from ancient Rome and has become a metaphor for people avoiding problems. In the wild, ostriches typically live 30 to 40 years, and they become mature at around 2 to 4 years old. But in captivity, they can live for a much longer time under proper care. And there have been recordings of ostriches living up to 70 years old. But what do these huge birds eat? We'll find out right after the break. The science word that I want to talk to you about today is biodiversity. Biodiversity means the variety of life in a particular area. For a healthy ecosystem, you usually want a high amount of biodiversity, meaning multiple different species of plants, animals, and fungi. One area where you'd be able to see the most biodiversity is in a tropical rainforest. Okay, we're back. Ostriches are omnivorous, which means that they eat both plants and animals for nutrition. The primary diet of ostriches are grasses, shrubs, roots, and other plant materials, but they'll also eat animals. Plant material makes up about 60% of their diet, with 15% made up of fruits and nuts, and 5% made up of meat and small insects. The small animals that ostriches eat include mice, rats, snakes, lizards, and insects. They also swallow rocks for digestion, and I've talked about this on other episodes before because it's actually pretty common in birds. Digestion is difficult for ostriches because they don't have teeth, so they swallow rocks or small pebbles to keep in their stomach or gizzard. They don't digest the rocks, but they're used to help grind and break down the other food. The gizzard is basically a second stomach that digests food into a thin paste before passing it further through their digestive tract. And over time, the rocks erode away completely in their stomachs, causing no internal damage to the ostrich. They then replace the recently eroded rocks with new ones. But I urge you, don't try this at home. Humans can't erode rocks in our stomachs like they do. Ostriches are very large, so they can eat around 3 pounds of food every day. But in the hot savanna that ostriches live in, water can be really scarce, so they've evolved to be able to go about 2 weeks without drinking water. We can only go about 3 days without drinking water. Much of the water that they get is through the plants that they eat. And they're always on the lookout for watering holes. But watering holes are also dangerous because their predators know that they need water, so they'll wait by the watering hole for a meal. Ostriches live together in herds, and sometimes those herds can have over 100 individuals, but usually the herds are around 10 individuals. Each herd has a pecking order, usually led by a dominant male that can defend the territory. And the dominant male will want a herd with many more females so that during breeding season, he can mate with the most dominant female. And there's safety in numbers. The larger the herd, the more protection there is for each individual in case of a predator coming around. When multiple herds meet, there's a possibility that they will challenge and chase after each other. Sometimes they'll fight until one group runs away. And as a reward for the winning herd, they'll take all the chicks from the other group into their own herd to grow in size. But two herds can also meet peacefully, depending on the circumstances. This is usually true when they're at a large water source. And it's not uncommon for younger ostriches to become mixed up and accidentally join another herd. Male ostriches are called roosters and females are called hens. Ostriches are polygamous animals, which means that they have multiple mates throughout their lifetime. However, almost all of their mates come from within their herd. Male ostriches typically have a bold black and white coloring, and we can take a good guess that the coloration is used for mating. This is because female ostriches have more of a light brown coat, so we know that females don't need the colors that the males do. The male uses his bright coloring to attract the female and performs a dance. This dance includes the ostrich crouching down towards the ground, almost like a bow, and then he shakes his feathers and moves up and down. After his dance, he approaches the female, and if she accepts, they mate. Newly hatched ostriches are pretty small when they're born. They're about the size of fully grown chickens. It typically takes about 40 days or about a month and a half for ostrich eggs to hatch. The eggs of an ostrich are the largest eggs on Earth. They can be around half a foot tall and weigh 20 times more than the egg of a chicken. And the young ostriches grow at around 1 foot per month, and after half a year, they're about as big as their full-grown parents. And the chicks don't grow their adult feathers until they're about 4 months old. Mating season is usually during the summer months, from March to September. Ostriches use communal nests among their herd, so for many individuals, they don't know who their exact parents are. Interestingly, the dominant male and female are known to care for each of the offspring more than the other members of the herd, even if they're not their own children. Okay, we're going to take our last break, and when we get back, we'll talk about some more interesting ostrich behaviors. Time for our trivia question. How many ants are there for every human on Earth? A. 100,000, B. 500,000, C. 1 million, or D. 20 million? The answer is C. 1 million. Okay, welcome back. So, what happens when a predator approaches an ostrich herd? Well, first, the male ostrich sounds a loud alarm to the rest of the herd. Then he outstretches his neck and holds his mouth open to intimidate the predator. This sometimes acts as a diversion for the chicks and the mother or the highest ranking female to run away and hide. They can also roar like a lion, and if these tactics don't scare them away, they'll defend themselves. They use their large clawed feet to kick at the predator. And this might not sound like a lot, but a kick from an ostrich has been said to be strong enough to kill a full-grown lion. So not only are ostriches really powerful and fast, but they're also important to the ecosystems that they live in. Ostriches keep a balance to the environment by controlling populations of plants, bugs, and lizards. Because ostriches roam across many parts of Africa, as well as having a very diverse diet, they can have an effect on multiple species populations. And they're an important meal for predators like the big African cats, vultures, and hyenas. They also help the environment in another way. Their feces act as a fertilizer for different types of plants. And we've talked about how fertilizers can sometimes be harmful to the environment on the podcast before. But ostrich feces has been proven to be less harmful to the environment than man-made fertilizers. They also forage for different fruits and plants, which helps to disperse their seeds throughout the ecosystem. And even though ostriches as a whole aren't endangered, there are some subspecies that are critically endangered in specific areas of Africa. This is mainly because of habitat loss and climate change, but they also faced another problem in the 18th century. Ostrich feathers were a commodity for the wealthy to hold in their hats or wear on clothing historically. The plumes, or the largest feathers on the ostriches, were a very profitable industry in the early 1900s in Africa. They started to be hunted for their meat and for their feathers, and this caused people to start making ostrich farms. The ostrich industry soon fell apart at the invention of the car because windows and windshields were not invented yet. So in turn, the feathers would fly out of the royalties' hats and clothing. This caused ostrich feathers to be much less in demand than they were before. But because of all this hunting, it's thought that if it had not been for ostrich farming, ostriches would have probably gone extinct. Aside from all of this, ostriches still need our help. So if you want to help them, you should check out the Sahara Conservation Fund, Ostrich Rescue, and the African Wildlife Foundation. Thank you so much for coming on this adventure with me as we explored the world of ostriches. You can find the sources that we used for this podcast and links to organizations that we reference at onwildlife.org. You can also email us with any questions at onwildlife.podcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us on Instagram at @on_wildlife or on TikTok at @onwildlife. Don't forget to tune in next Wednesday for another awesome episode. And that's On Wildlife.
You've been listening to On Wildlife with Alex Ray. On Wildlife provides general educational information on various topics as a public service, which should not be construed as professional, financial, real estate, tax, or legal advice. These are our personal opinions only. Please refer to our full disclaimer policy on our website for full details.